the fence, overall the length is about 91 centimetres, just under a metre, and I was in two minds whether to cut it down because of this little bit of the bark that was still left, or to just leave it. And I think on balance I'm going to leave it, because this is going to be the working area of the whole thing, and that will give me a nice long length for inflow and outflow. What I've got to do now is decide the layout behind things. Now, I have checked. The whole idea of making this new fence was that it would be square to the table, and that is absolutely square, so I'm happy with that. Behind, I'm going to have some way of clamping it to the T-track, and I think what I did before was to have a piece at 90 degrees to everything, so I could clamp to that. How would I fit to this and the dust extraction? Again, all things that I'm going to be thinking about now. So, that's that. What I had thought was, if I have that piece like that, what I can do is put a router groove in there to let that in. That way it will be, again, 90 degrees, and I'll be able to keep everything square. That therefore won't need cutting down at all, but I will need some bracing. So piece here, here and two here. That will stop everything flexing. Not that it will flex much, but it'll stop whatever flexing there is. And then some sort of dust extraction unit here to take this arrangement. So that's what I'm going to be doing now, and trying to work out where things are going, the dimensions, and that way I can then produce a cutting list. What I've done is marked out on the actual timber where I want all of the cuts. I don't normally do that. I normally work things out on paper, but I thought I'll save a bit of time and actually mark it out full size. What I've done, that's going to be the base, and I've marked on it the two holes that will clamp it to the T-track. My next thought was where to put and how to construct the air extraction, and I've plumped for 100 millimeters from the fence and 150 millimeters high. The actual cutout for the router bits from the base, I've gone for 35 millimeters because that's about as deep as I can cut. So that's going to be the rear of the fence. That's the base and by matching all of the lines I then transferred the markings here. Because the dust extraction unit is going to be quite a large affair, I've decided I'm only going to need 2 other braces. So one there, and again I've matched where all the positionings are. Everything is going to be inset, so apart from this base here, which is going to be inset into the fence by 20 to 25 millimeters, everything else is going to be inset by 10 millimeters. So what I've done is transferred all of these onto a third piece of timber. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 for the dust extraction, 2 sides, the back and the top. I've opted for full width of the base and 150 millimeters high on the fence. So full width 150 millimeters, and I've opted for triangular, so I've just gone straight down the middle. So that bit's spare, those are all measured. All I've got to do now is actually start the cutting, and then we can start putting things together. One thing I had thought was that I will construct the dust extraction unit first, and then I'll be able to inset it and glue that into place before I attach it to the fence. That way I'm going to guarantee everything is absolutely square. So that's about it for today. Thanks for watching, and we will return. It is a continuing project, and ultimately I'm trying to keep in mind that this is for the betterment of the work that I'm doing, trying to make everything as square as possible before I start. Then I won't have as many errors creeping in. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I've made myself some jig so that I can cut all of the router joints for the fence and make everything uniform. I know everything will line up and everything will be nice and straight. This then is the router fence. This bit is the base that's going to actually screw down to the table itself. And if you remember from the last video, I marked out full size where the cuts were going to go. So the dust extraction is going to go here. We're going to have a brace here, a brace here, and then I've marked 2 points for where the holes are going to go through. gone well. So it's a case of just lining up with the end of the hole there, the side of the slot there, and then giving it a good bash. And that didn't take long, less than 5 minutes. So I'm very pleased with the result. And just to double check, that's the piece that will be going at the back. That's going to be a nice tight fit. Might need a little bit of easing, but that will be fine. I might just need to take that down on the planer just slightly, just to give me a little bit extra. But that is actually a nice snug fit. So let's get on to the bandsaw. So we're at that point now. All I'm going to do, this bit is waste, so I'm just cutting this bit off, because what I've got are 1, 2, 3 pieces here, but they don't go the full width of the board. So I want to save that bit of timber. That means I need to be able to do a long cut. I can't do that without cutting these 2 pieces off first. So that's all I'm going to do here, is just make it easy to save that piece of timber. And that's it. So these are the pieces that will go toward the dust extraction and the 2 braces, and just got to see how they fit. Now it is, as I did suspect, the slots that I cut last time with the router, it was a 16mm cutter, but these are about 1/4 millimetre. It's 16.3, 16.4 millimetres thick. So all I'm going to do is put these onto the planer table and just take off one pass to make them just ease into the slots that little bit. So all I've done is taken about 1/4 millimetre off the back end of the pieces on the planer table, and now that is a nice snug fit. That's lovely, that is. So that's that side. That's that side. That will go in there. That will go on there. So can you see what I'm going to be doing? Rather than have that just sat on the top like that, I'm actually going to rebate them in so that that will be flush with that side, and that way I'll be able to get a nice neat finish. Same with that, that's going to go in the top there, and it's going to go into the slot at the bottom. The two braces will be going like that, but those will be going into the base, and that will be just what the doctor ordered. So this is the arrangement. The base will be inset into the actual fence so that that will be totally square, but the rough fitting of the back components, you can see that there are some adjustments that I'm going to need to make. These slots here haven't come up high enough. I'll probably cut those pieces down so that they fit, because that is perfectly adequate just there. I don't want to be making additional cuts there. Oops. The two braces, they are actually a little bit too long, so all I'm going to do is cut the top off there, and that will be fine. Everything lines up nicely, and then once I've done that, I can inset that and the top into these two side pieces, and then I can start putting things together. After careful measuring now, I've got the pieces of the dust extraction unit to fit. What I'm doing now is this is the one of the sides of the dust extraction. I've marked where I need to route so that the top will sit in there. I've just set up the router on the table, and I'm just going to make those two cuts. I've made sure that this fence is running perfectly parallel to the table, and just using the 16mm cutter, I've set it to the correct depth. I'm just going to make these two cuts and then get the right two pieces of wood. There we go, and then we can carry on. because I was doing it mainly freehand, just using this, I need to tidy that up somewhat. But again, I'm getting to know my tools and the work. Now you'll notice I've now put a clamp on the fence and the workpiece so that it doesn't move around, and we'll try how that goes. Now that felt a lot better, and that has given me a nice finish on that piece. Let's try this one. So you can see now how things are going to work. Side 1, side 2, with the top sitting in there like that. That will make a nice flush top, and everything is nice and square. All of that will then have the back like this. And what I'm going to be doing is insetting that into the side and the top. That way we'll get a nice tight seal for the air, and we should get a good suction on that one. So this is the result of what I've just done, the rebates that I've just cut. So the sides, the top, and we've just made the rebate for the back. Now that fits in there very nicely, and so what we're going to do this afternoon is make provision for putting the base into, setting it into the actual fence. So that will mean quite a hefty router cut. So we're talking about, let me get my gauge just to make sure. Yeah, we're talking about 16.5mm wide, but because we've got the whole fence, which is 32mm, I'm going to be insetting the whole thing by about 20 to 25mm. That way it will be very solid, and I'll be able to screw and glue very easily into that without any of the wood splitting at all. We're going to see how this goes. I'm not going to do it on the actual workpiece first. I'm just going to use a test piece to try the concept. I've chosen the cutter, and this is the closest guide bush that I've got that will get me to the 16mm. So as I say, I'm just going to see how it goes, and then we'll take it from there. I can always revert to an ordinary straight cutter and use the guide that fits onto the router itself. and one thing you'll notice a slight difference in sound quality because the battery on my radio mic has just gone, so at the moment I'm working on the microphone in camera, and so as I say, you might notice a little bit of a difference. I've switched to manual focus so that you're not getting that constant clicking with the focus peaking. So workpiece is firmly attached. I've attached it to a different part of the vacuum system. Let's make the cut. Right, so that's the cut. That went very nicely. There was just a little bit of scorching at this bottom end because I was taking more of my time over it, but overall I'm very pleased with that result. And if we get the base, that fits nicely. It is actually just the right size for that, and it's down to about 22 millimeters. So again, I've got plenty of depth there. All I've got to do now is make sure that all of the components here fit nicely and there's a good seal. So that's what I'm going to do now. Just a rough dry fitting, and it looks like these two braces do need to go down slightly in size, so I'll give those another pass on the planer. But the top of the dust extraction unit, I think that also will need a small pass on the planer, because that fits very nicely in place, but that doesn't. There isn't much in it. You'll see that doesn't quite fit. I've opted for a 6mm cutter, and I've attached the fence for the router. It's running against this edge here, and it's only going to be the width of this that I'm cutting, but it's just to take a little skim out, and that should ease the backboard quite considerably. Put my ears on and let's make the cut. Now that vacuum setup worked nicely, so at least there wasn't any dust flying all over the place then. Now that's eased it just nicely. That will fit in very nicely, and that arrangement will work. Now I thought I'd just show you how things are progressing. The whole idea of this was so that the fence would be exactly perpendicular to the table. That is a very nice vertical face all across the table, and that's the arrangement at the back. As I mentioned, this slot is going to need a slight adjustment. The size of the braces here and here will need to change slightly as well, but everything's coming together nicely. I'm not going to go any further today.